A warm welcome at this exciting panel on the future of banking, kindly brought to you by TriFinance and Aion Bank. What a pleasure to moderate this session. If it's not because of the content I'm very passionate about, then it's because of all the friends that are here brought together around this table to discuss the future of our industry. My name is Rick Koekelbergs. I am the founder and managing director of the Banking Scene, an informal, active banking community and network organization for financial services in the Benelux region and beyond. It inspires banking during their journey into a more innovative, agile and better version of its current self. And that's what we'll be discussing here today as well. Ecosystem building, beyond banking, invisible payments, humanizing digital services, digital transformation. They're all buzzwords that we hear on a daily basis. My aim of this session is to demystify these buzzwords and to make them concrete to help you better understand the future of our industry. And to make sure that we can do this, we have 5 panelists here around the table. First one being Jean-Philippe Thirion, head of TriFinance Financial Institutions, where he works for almost 15 years. Over that period, he grew his department from 2 consultants in the very beginning to more than 100 today. Aside from his Belgian activities, he is also the lead of the Luxembourg department. Our second speaker, Kim van Esbroek. She's the country head Belgium of Aion Bank, where she's responsible for growing Aion's business through commercial activities and business development. She directly manages Aion Bank's sales and partnership teams, and she is also responsible for the flagship store in Brussels, where we are here today. Very warm welcome.
Thank you.
Karel is our third guest. He's currently the CEO of Fibelfin since April 2020, my apologies. Quite a challenging period to start in that position, if you ask me. Before, he worked 20 years as a global partner at Egon Zehnder, shaping the future of finance behind the scenes. Prior to that, he was working as the managing director of bpost Bank and general manager of financial products at bpost, just to name a few roles. Fourth, we have Inge Ampe. Inge is a banking and insurance veteran with more than 25 years of experience, today active as Chief Commercial Officer at Argenta. Before that, she held several roles at ING, both in Belgium and in the Netherlands. As she lives in Bruges, I cannot blame her to be an unconditional fan of Club Brugge. Warm welcome.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, we have Emmanuel Legras, CEO of Nickel Belgium. The name may not ring a bell to all of you, but Emmanuel had a tremendous impact in the field of microfinance and economic inclusion, all over the world, in fact. Back in 2020, I got to know him as the CEO of MicroStart and board member of the European Microfinance Network. Very warm welcome, everyone here around the table.
Thanks a lot.
As we are being hosted by Aion Bank and TriFinance, let's start with two introducing questions with Kim and Jean-Philippe. Kim, ladies first. When we talk about disruption in the banking industry, perhaps the best example from the Belgian market is the transformation of Banque Montepaschi di Belgio into Aion Bank. Your unique selling proposition is a subscription model, something that no other bank offers with such discipline. How do you look back at the 1.5 years that you are now currently active?
Yeah, as you said, we launched 2 weeks prior to the first lockdown, so nobody could have predicted what we know now, looking back 1.5 years back. But it gave us also the perspective to see how we fit into the Belgian market and to more sharply define our messages. And indeed, we launched a subscription model because according to us, it's the most transparent way how to do banking. Like upfront, you know what you pay on a monthly basis, and for that, you have access to all services. And actually, we learned the past 18 months that what our customers appreciate the most in banking with us is our proposals for savings and investments, right? And on top of that, they have access to all kinds of daily banking services, digitalized 100% virtual out of the Aion app. And it has been a success, also qualified by SIA partners recently in their research. We ranked 3rd place after 18 months, so quite an achievement in the lists of Belgian banking apps. So pleasure to see that it's also appreciated in the market.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Let's dig deeper into that later in this session. Jean-Philippe?
Yeah.
Why do you believe that today or in this period is the right moment to organize this kind of events?
Yeah, I believe this is a very good timing indeed today, because very good timing to talk about business model, new business model for the banking sector and banking industry. There is a momentum after these 2 years of weird pandemic periods, also after all these years of big transformation to comply with regulatory requirements, but also trying to get rid of the IT legacy. It's a very good timing because also we talk about relaunch now. Not really about resilience, but relaunch and new perspective. And new perspectives means also people need to see their workplace reinvented within the financial institution sector. It means also that clients have also other priorities in consuming on the day-to-day basis. It means then new kind of financial services, and maybe a paradox in the current context with all the digitized activities, which is very great and very important, but we observe a kind of friction also in the trust between the clients and the financial institutions. So they need a dialogue. They need indeed a kind of financial mentoring. And I believe indeed the business model for tomorrow should encompass more this financial mentoring, or what we can call also the finance of things, by analogy with Internet of Things. Also good timing because this is, we observe the emergence indeed of very interesting business model, and I believe Aion should be taken very seriously, like Nickel. I like the ideas and I like the concept, and I guess you will talk about that in a few minutes. But I observe also within incumbent financial institutions like Argenta, also interesting initiatives with new kind of partnership. You will probably tell more in a few minutes. So yes, good timing, because I hear a lot also about 2030 as a big target, and 2030 is not so far in a certain extent if you want to change your business model. So I think it's great to have this panel today to discuss together. Thanks.
Excellent. I can't wait anymore to start. So let's kick off with the first question. And my first question is for Karel. Karel, in a recent study I did for a client in Luxembourg, I conducted a couple of interviews with executives to investigate how the future of finance will look like. And that was also in the context of COVID-19 and the pandemic. And if there was one clear conclusion, it was that the pandemic, in fact, did not lead to a revolution or a major transformation. It simply accelerated already existing processes in digitization and maybe some other trends as well in the financial services industry. What are your observations in that respect?
Well, I fully agree. I think the digitization was already before COVID-19 well underway, and not only in financial services, but in all aspects of our daily life. Our contacts with government, with healthcare, with transport. And so already people had changed their behavior to some extent. But what we see is that now, during the COVID crisis, there was the obligation to keep distance at some point in time. And so people tried out the new products more than they did before. And a lot of people jumped on that digital train, and much more quickly than we ever had expected. When we see, for example, there was firstly a strong reduction of cash in the market, everyone has seen that, but also a strong increase of mobile banking subscriptions, of internet banking subscriptions. And also very interesting to see is that there is a strong increase of the contactless payments, where they had around 16% of the total payments were contactless before COVID. Now it's 50%, 50. So that in 1 year, it's an incredible evolution.
Now, a very brief additional question, if I may. I know that Fabelfin puts a lot of emphasis on digital inclusion.
Yes.
The fact that today a lot more people are digitally enabled because they were forced to do so. Does that mean that this digital inclusion is becoming a bigger priority or a lower priority simply because we have more people digitally included now?
Yeah. Well, I fully agree. You cannot defend digitization without also talking about digital inclusion. So first of all, you have to try to get people, as much as possible, people on the digital train, and that's one objective. Another objective is, let's be honest, there will always be some more vulnerable people, perhaps, who will never be on the digital train, and also there, I think we, as a financial sector, we have a responsibility also to see what we can do and to help and support them.
All right, thank you very much. Kim, Aion Bank launched right before the pandemic. I remember, as it was yesterday, I was invited there, and a day later I would leave on a weekend with friends. And during that weekend, I realized that probably the coming year was going to be pretty disastrous for me personally.
You realized it at that time already?
2 days after the official launch, I started to realize it. But in hindsight, would you launch the bank the same moment in time if you knew everything that you know today? And what are learnings of the past 1.5 years?
Just like all players, probably at that time, there was a moment of hesitation. Okay, what to do now? Because, as you said, we had planned grand opening, face-to-face things, and all that all of a sudden disappeared. But we decided, of course, to move ahead because we are here today, right? So we did do so basically because we were by nature already remotely organized as digital bank, all our co-workers, remote access, fully in the cloud, so no problem to operate just with a click of the button remotely. And also, we felt it as our mission to help Belgians with credit granting and with also allowing them to become member of the bank from their sofa, so to speak. So I fully agree with what Karel just said. We saw, it was already prior to COVID, a usual fact that people bank through mobile banking, but there is this acceleration that played in our cards, really, as a digital bank, that we see that people are more acquainted to just do business, asking for a loan through the app in a mobile way without a need to come physically to a branch or to underwrite any paper or contract or whatever in a hard copy way. A slight adaptation, but I mean, we have to be agile at all times, not always in implementation, but also in our plans, is that we completely changed our marketing plans. While pre-COVID, there would be more face-to-face, all of a sudden, also digital marketing was the full focus. So there were some changes, but still no regrets to have moved forward. Right?
All right, thank you. Jean-Philippe, as a consultant, I imagine sometimes you look at the industry through another lens from a further distance.
We try, yeah.
What's your vision on the transformation in the industry, and how did the pandemic impact or affect this industry in your opinion?
For me, indeed, the future and the coming years will or should focus on creating new combination of services, combination of financial and non-financial services, to reach a kind of financial mentoring offering to the clients. The last 15 years, like we said, a lot of transformation have been made to comply with regulation, to improve the IT legacy. But finally, few big bang in banks, few big bang in the new value proposition. That's my observation, of course, and we can share about it. So I would expect now a kind of readiness in the systems, thanks also to new technologies, to go further in the development of new business models in this direction. And a small example, I would expect from my banks to receive proactively diagnostic about what I've paid to my energy provider. It's a hot topic, I think, today, the energy provider. The same for communication, the same for plenty of other examples. I would expect he inform me about, Jean-Philippe, you could save more than that because your revenues stay the same, and we can help you to activate this change. We can accompany you to change from provider. This is what I call the financial mentoring, or the finance of things. We could see the same also for the corporate sector. In our experience within TriFinance, we see a lot of small, medium-sized companies, and already big ones, who cannot afford, or which cannot afford having a CFO or a performance manager. So we can also imagine that banks also enter in helping their clients, improving their financial processes to indeed create more needs or more link with the the funding and the investment of the activity.
To become a full-fledged personal advisor and business advisor.
Yeah, and become more know-how model instead of selling services, selling products. Once again, the dialogue is for me an important evolution in the coming years. The pandemic, because it was also a question, yeah, fully agree with you, just accelerated it. And I like the word agile, but not the dogmatic agility. I know for one of the big four banks, they even forbid to use the word agility, like Voldemort in Harry Potter. Agile is indeed, for me, hands-on side of the agile. And hands-on side of the agile is entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, indeed, that banks should embrace more in the coming years. So it means also new kind of skills within the financial institution sector, new kind of attitude, more entrepreneurship. And it means for the people who like the financial institution sector, plenty of new opportunities, because we will need new kind of skills and new combination of skills in the future as well.
Thank you very much, and I completely agree with you. I was listening to a podcast when I came here, listening to an interview of Karel Baert, where he also spoke about these skills and digital skills, but also sustainability, etc., is getting increasingly higher on the agenda. Yeah. For the people that are listening to us, if you have any questions, please raise them in the tool that you have available, and we come back on those questions after this session, of course. Now I have a question for Inge. Inge, as a Chief Commercial Officer of Argenta, what we call an incumbent player, you must have felt the immediate impact of the pandemic and what it had on customer behavior. Did this affect how Argenta looks at banking today?
Yes and no. We are the prototype of a hybrid model. We used to be focusing on our branches. We have 400 independent agents. Now, I think like 10 years ago, we also started to develop our digital sales and services. And fortunately, we have progressed a lot in that, because in the same CI survey, we were ranked 4th after just behind KBC, Belfius, and Aion, which is quite a compliment for a branch-driven bank. And what you see is that this hybrid model, you see it back in consumer behavior. So on the one hand, the consumer wants to have simple sales, simple services in a digital way, very convenient, and there's a pressure on that, reduction of cash, etc. On the other hand, you see the growing need for financial mentoring. And it has not to do with banking, but it has to do with moments of truth, of life, in the life cycle of a person. And that can be the purchase of a house, that can be the first big investment or a succession. But it can also be the first opening of an account. And I give you an example. We were rather late in launching how to become an online client with Argenta. We launched it now, but we always invite the people also in the branches. And I had this discussion internally, and people of the board said, but they're not going to come, Inge, the youngsters, they're not going to come, they will not come to the branches. Wrong. 3 out of 4 are coming. And I do think that if you compare Argenta to Aion, we just speak to another population. We speak to the people that want to do the simple sales and services conveniently out of their sofa. But when it comes to a really impactful financial decision, They want to have the advice. They want to have the mentoring, the coaching. I like the mentoring, by the way. And that's why we have our branches. And it's not about the bricks and the mortar, I want to stress that. It's about the people. And of course, they have to be located somewhere. But why do I stress that? Because if as we work with independent agents, we have third, fourth generation people in the branches. We have the stability. We have, if you come in an Argenta branch today and you come within 5 years, you have a big chance that you meet the same people and the same expertise. Well, I hope that the expertise has grown by then. But it's a very strong value proposition that might just focus on other people than the people coming to Aion.
And did you see a certain change in customer behavior over the last year?
We saw the extremes of the cost curve. So we saw a lot of digital adoption in all ages. Even, I mean, we even have people using our mobile app of more than 90 years old. And we saw overall the need for advice in the branch. The branches remained open on appointment, but they were fully booked, even more sometimes than before, because people had the time to put their finances in order, to have, and sometimes it was even the only thing they could do. Talk about their insurances, screening their portfolio, talk about their finances. So our model, it just accentuates the power of a hybrid model and the power of the data that you need to steer the hybrid model.
Yeah, I think that's a very good conclusion. And also what I observe, where in the past you had technology for the sake of it, of digitizing, etc., where now we're starting to use technology to make services more human again, and this personal contact remains quite essential. And that also brings me to the next question for Emmanuel. You were recently appointed CEO Nickel in Belgium. You will go live next year, if I'm well informed. It's a French challenger bank with a go-to-market that we would not expect from a challenger. Your business model is based on physical contact with digital support. Am I correct?
Yeah. Indeed.
Could you please explain briefly to the audience that doesn't know Nickel how the model works and how important you believe this business model will be in the future?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. You're right. So we are a new player here in Belgium, so we will be live early next year, and we are preparing our launch now. And Nickel's model is based on the best of the digital services with a combination with a proximity network, and a strong proximity network. And it's in line with our core values, which are simplicity, utility, benevolence, and universality. At Nickel, we don't want to forget anyone, those who are very comfortable with new technology, as well as those who are less so. That's why we are combining financial digital services to be able to open an account in 5 minutes only, online or directly inside the press shop, but with this strength of a proximity network with the press shop. So it's really important.
That's very important. It's through press shops. It's not through your own branches.
Yeah, exactly, because we are working with independent distributors, which are the press shops, so from tobacconists in France to here in Belgium, press shop very, very soon. So with this model, now we are able to be everywhere, from the biggest city to the smallest village. So it's really important. And of course, digitization, it's important, but it's not an end. The end is to offer the best of the service to our customers. So it's really important. And our networks are always as close as possible to our customers. We want to work very simply with our clients. We want to be implemented where they live, where they pass by. It's really important. And they want to offer them, to provide them the opportunity to be comfortable with the fact to enter inside a shop, to open an account and to make all their operations, because with the press shop owners, they can make deposits, they can withdraw money, etc. So it's really simple way to functioning with them. So this concept of territoriality is really important. And is even important with the press shop themselves, because we are providing a solution to diversify their services, to improve their revenues, their turnover, and to offer new services to their clients and to get more clients. So it's really important, and it's a win-win partnership with the press shops. Mm-hmm. And it's also one of our biggest competitive advantages in comparison with some competitors, let's say, because with this model, we're able to offer the best of the digital services, as I said, but we are also allowing cash management for our clients. So it's really, really important. And for the future, at Nickel, we have a societal purpose. It's really important. It's part of our core values. So we are convinced that in the near future, there will be no company without this kind of mindset for the society, to be usefulness for the society. But at Nickel, we consider that we are already there, so it's important.
All right, thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Kyle, I've had many discussions with executives active in personal banking, like Emmanuel, like Inge, and a few others. For example, in the Netherlands, they look at it at a slightly different way. Personal contact remains critical, but maybe not always through branches and really in-person contact, although with the pandemic we may change that perception because seeing people in life does make a difference. But how do you look at the future of branches in Belgium in the coming, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Well, there is certainly a changing behavior with consumer. If we have, for example, we have done a survey where we see that 9 out of 10 of the clients only seldomly go to their bank branch anymore. So, which is, of course, then normal that, let's say, as a bank, you adapt to this changing behavior. On the other hand, if we see the Belgian situation and compare it with Europe, we are still, with our banking branch network, a front runner. So we are in the top 4 of the density of branches. For example, we have still in Belgium 7 times more branches than in the Netherlands per million inhabitants, which is enormous. But I agree, the tendency is to a certain extent, and for some banks, perhaps not every bank, this evolution will continue. On the other hand, I personally believe that all the personal contact will always stay very important. But perhaps for other activities than it was the case beforehand. So I think, as Inge said, for some really important moments in your life, credits, but also your financial situation, etc. I think there a personal contact will stay always very important. Perhaps not always physical, it can be with video, but also non-video, but real physical contact. So I think banks will adapt, and some banks will, let's say, put a lot of attention to that, and others less. So I think that's up to every bank to decide.
Bank and their customers, I suppose. But indeed, it's a similar trend that we see from different banks, some going for video, some going for branches. I recently saw a report of a digital agency that was even saying that not everything should be digitized like loans. So it clearly makes sense. Kim, your approach was digital with physical contact from flagship stores like where we are today. However, Aion is today positioning itself increasingly more as a digital bank and even as a technology company. And that brings us to the second theme of this session. What should the audience understand under Aion Bank's banking as a services offering?
Yeah. On the one hand, we are known, as just discussed, as direct serving the Belgian customers, but we have the other side of our offering. So we have a sister company called Vodeno, and Vodeno is cloud-native banking as a service provider. And actually, Aion Bank, as you said, we did a digital transformation in 5 months from one of the oldest banks in the world, Banca Montepaschi, to this new digital bank. We are fully working on the Vodeno cloud platform. And actually what we started noticing also in the past 18 months is that there is a huge appetite for embedded banking. Not only from financial players, but also from non-financial players.
And for the people that are not aware with that term, what do you mean exactly with embedded banking?
So imagine, for instance, the example of a large retailer. Yeah, a large retailer, bol.com or Zalando. There is more and more the trend to offer an A to Z experience within the ecosystem of that retailer. So it's very imaginable that they want to offer also cards, but also payments processing, or even loans granting and so on, out of the ecosystem, let's say Zalando of bol.com, right? But their retailer in a particular ecosystem not always having the banking experience or what is required also from license point of view, from regulatory perspective. So there we have the unique combination of having this technology, which we can offer as a service, banking as a service, payment as a service, in combination with a European banking license. So this combo makes us unique and also attractive for those players who want to offer that, but miss simply that element in order to do so. And it's exactly that is going crazy, I would say, because as we speak, we're currently implementing on the European territory several projects already to make this happen, and the first projects went live already. So it's really booming business, the combo of this technology with the banking license to facilitate actually the whole experience in banking or in credit granting towards different audiences than the classical one-on-one bank customer.
So the bank becoming an IT provider in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. A multi-headed octopus, I would say.
Thank you. Jean-Philippe, with topics like embedded finance, banking as a service, etc., we start to see many institutions leveraging their assets to support others in providing financial services like Aion does. I read about Starling Bank in the UK yesterday, and there are many other players. I expect not every bank will be able to follow that track. Is that problematic in your opinion, or does it matter? Does it depend from bank to bank? Is the market under pressure of consolidation because they risk not to be able to follow those trends?
I think it's not a problem, but indeed we lack from synergies on our Belgian financial institution market. I see indeed on the market for years white products, banks developing services for other institutions using their own brands, such like in supermarkets, by the way. We see indeed big players trying or considering to sell a part of their operating model, their app. They are a well-known bank which are trying indeed to propose IT services to other financial institutions. And we see new players, and I also noted Vodeno, because we observe also Vodeno on the market, which come with very interesting solution also for the banks and the non-banks. For the banks to get rid of the IT legacy, as we talked about, and the non-financial institutions to propose indeed new kind of full-fledged services. So, yeah, for me there is a place for a lot of focus and value proposition, and it's not a problem for me, because what is important is to focus on the clients and the people within the financial institutions. But yeah, I would expect more synergies in our project mission. Well, we see the same usual suspects, the same problems, more or less everywhere. We have the same complexity in the reporting to the regulators. We have the same difficulties to improve the IT legacy. We have the same difficulties to manage account payable process, outsourcing activities. So, yeah, I think in the Belgian market there are plenty of opportunities to create more synergies, to indeed exchange more about these technologies, to give more mental space to focus on new business model, new value proposition. So this is not a problem if all banks are not developing banking as a service. I see it as a normal situation, but for me, it's more a problem to see that we have a lack of synergies on the current market. And we do not have to forget that we have a solid expertise and experience in Belgium. 30 years ago, we were pioneers in plenty of banking, bank insurance, payments, also in development of derivatives. So we have the expertise, and we see there are already some synergies possible with the ATM, with some anti-money laundering, with Cube. Isabel is, by the way, fintech avant la lettre. Isabel was already very pioneer in Belgium. So we have the expertise, and it would be unfortunate to not leverage on that and let it dilute in the coming years. So, and even, I have another example, you talk about branch. I read recently in UK, there are two Scottish or UK bank having the same premises to offer their services. Okay, it's maybe a bit anecdotic, but these are possible synergies we can find to indeed evolve more in new business model encompassing bank as a service, etc. So for me, the focus or the attention should be on more synergies in our financial institution in Belgium.
I personally completely align with that vision, and some time ago, someone asked me to write my vision on banking in 20 years' time, so banking in 2040. And there the idea was also that you have a few big banks that can support many smaller brands, and they all have their unique identity supporting their unique clientele, which could potentially mean that we grow from 6,000 institutions in Europe today to many more, but perhaps it also goes to many less. Karel, what's your take on this consolidation discussion?
Well, about the point of Jean-Philippe, and I agree that it is very important to work together, and I think that in Belgium, Belgium has always been a front runner in terms of interbanking collaboration. We have seen it at Bank Contact at the time, but also with SWIFT, with Euroclear, very successful examples of interbank collaboration. And also, and there I'm a bit more maybe optimistic about the current situation, that we see initiatives like It's Me, like Cube, where we see very interesting evolutions. And I think we should go further on that path. And that can be about AML, that we can work together. It can be sustainability is for certainly also a team where we could work together and put our efforts together to come to...
And we do that already with a very interesting initiative at Fabelfin.
Exactly. There is the label, which is called Towards Sustainability, which is founded by Fabelfin, but then it was put in an apart company because it should be very neutral. But there we give a label to sustainable products. And that is a very successful label. And there we can be proud in Belgium to say that is the most successful label in Europe, with 340 billion euros that have that label. And which is, of course, we should always be careful that it's not too severe, because then you have no product at all. But on the other hand, you should avoid that it is greenwashing, and that is what we try to do. But I think, indeed, it's a very good example of interbank cooperation.
Thank you very much. Inge, open banking, to my surprise, in the past 40 minutes, is a term that we haven't used yet. Yet, if you talk about future of banking, it's something that we cannot avoid. Argenta quickly modernized its infrastructure over the last couple of years, offering different new services in different ways, which also explain why the app is so high ranked in the SIA benchmark. But you also have the first open banking use case with Cake live for not so long. How do you look at the future of open banking of Argenta going forward?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting discussion. And as Argenta, we look at it from a slightly different angle, but I'll come back to that later. First of all, maybe not everybody is aware, but we are in a kind of a peculiar situation in the sense that we are family-owned. We are still family-owned, one of the biggest family-owned companies in Belgium, and that gives us a special perspective because we don't have the sometimes toxic pressure from the capital markets. So we really focus on the long term. Now, the pro of Argenta is that we have a very strong distribution network with the independent agents. The counter-argument or our challenge is our scale. We're the biggest of the small banks, but the smallest of the big banks. And we are very much neutral to who is building our back. So, to give the example of Yofico, we have always said our ATMs, we don't consider that a unique value proposition to our clients, so we united with the small banks to do that together.
And for the people in the audience, Yofico is one of the initiatives to consolidate
the ATM part,
voilà.
Sale and lease back, blah, blah, blah. It remains with the different banks, but we're working together and basically we're sharing the costs. That's one thing. That's very easy. And there's a lot of fields where you could work together if you don't have, competing services. However, we want to grow. We are a typical traditional bank insurer. We focus on daily banking, investments, lending, and I'm forgetting something very important, insurance. We do that within our model, but we also want to take benefit of the technological evolution and not necessarily do it ourselves, because we just don't have the scale. We would like to be a KBC or a Belfius, but we just don't have the genes to be that. So we're trying to be kind of clever.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
No. We're perfectly, comfortable with who we are. But combining the willingness to grow and the very good distribution network automatically leads you to open banking. And so we follow a lot of fintechs, startups, scale-ups in different phases of maturities. And if any one of them fits in our value proposition for our customers and in our culture, we are open to working together. And the first use case was cake. There were a few use cases before that, which haven't materialized. So it wasn't the first on our list, but it was the first one where really, we did it all the way, and it was kind of done in 4 months of time. So it was really amazing. We give to Cake the network, and we get from them the technology, and our customers have a value proposition under a trusted brand. So. And we're monitoring a lot of other use cases.
What I like about your answer is that you're actually not talking about technology here.
No.
The many discussions I have on open banking is very often on APIs. It's about the PSD2, it's about connectivity, it's all about these technical interfaces. What I hear here is a cultural shift to more openness of banking.
And the basic condition precedent will always be, does it fit in our value proposition? Because we do banking, we do insurance, but more importantly is how we do it. It's always simple, it's at a good price. I wouldn't call it cheap, but it's considered cheap in the market. It's personal, and it's always for the long term. Good example is we don't give bonuses to our people. People might not always agree to that, but it's very important for us. It's focusing on the long term. And if we find a service, a product, a collaboration that fits in that, then we can talk about it.
All right, thank you. Kim, Aion Bank. That bank was built on the principles of open banking. I remember that very well from the official launch back in 2020. Do you see a similar future as Inge? And maybe an additional question, do you look at open banking in a similar way as Inge, or is it for you more a technological discussion?
No, not at all. Also, this twofold or this two angles. So, on the one hand, of course, as a young company with technology developed 2 years ago, we are open banking by design. So, no need of transformation projects. It was built and developed like that, right? But on the other hand, it's also our belief. And it was also the mission of the founders of the bank to act for our members as a kind of financial butler. I always use the anecdote because everyone knows then immediately what we mean by that. So kind of surpassing ourselves and offering value to our members, not necessarily banking with us, having products and taking it from us, but rather seeing, okay, like the energy providers, but also in gas or mobile phone, or to play and to offer them like comparison tools and also do then the switch on their behalf. And our ultimate vision, if open banking, PSD2 would be commodity, so to speak, and all around, is to also offer the service to open a saving account at the other bank on behalf of our members. So I give you the example. We currently have a service that we compare rates at all Belgian banks from within our app. And if a person then says, okay, I'm interested in that rate on the savings accounts, we open on behalf of the customer an account at the same rate. Currently, we have to do it within Aion because PSD2 is not yet that advanced. Not all banks are on the same level. But ultimately, our vision and our dream is to use those open banking and all those APIs that we have as the rails in order to be able to open also services at other banks and not necessarily have the mindset like we have to keep our customers in our own ecosystem, to go beyond, really. So also the combination of techno with this more personality and psychological side to it.
Do you think it was a mistake from the European regulator to limit PSD2 to pure payments? Should they have looked at it from a much broader context from the very beginning, according to you? Or do you think that's more of an evolutive thing that banks needed to ensure that they could follow?
I do think that it's an ongoing process, and we are probably not at the end yet, right? So initially, when the discussions were there, and also banks had to be compliant, there was kind of some banks' reaction to be a protectionism, right? I don't know if it's correct English. So to really say, oh no, we will not implement it because then other players, they just have access to our accounts and they will initiate payments or account opening. We have to shield that. But more and more, I see also when discussing with other players in Belgian market that they rather embrace it and look through it rather like what's in it for the end consumer, and also like surf on that. And you see also banks that offer account visibility, like in the cake environment within their banking app. So they also embrace it now. So I see clear evolution, and probably that will open up more the landscape and full accessibility with the rails that the regulator had in mind from the inception moment.
So Aion and TriFinance should organize more sessions like this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right, Emmanuel, I remember a virtual roundtable I organized early this year with your chairman, Thomas Courtois, where we discussed the whole business model of Nickel. And he understood what value open banking could bring. Nevertheless, and that was, in his point of view, to open up to new use cases and improving the customer experience. But he was also conscious that Nickel should be very strict on which use cases to implement and not just to jump on anything. What's your take on open banking today?
Actually, nothing had changed. So we still have the same opinion regarding open banking. So, of course, we consider that open banking could allow us to quickly develop new services for our customers with partners. So it's really important. But we don't want to launch a new service only because we can. We just want to do it because our customers like it. It's really important for us. So it's still linked to our values of utility and simplicity. So we have the chance to have teams, great teams, in-house, developing and implementing our own core banking system, for example, on our mobile app, etc. So it's not that we don't want to work with partners, but we want to select really the project which will meet the needs of our customers. For example, we have developed with an API, with an integration with RIA and MoneySnap. Now we are offering through our mobile app the possibility for our customers to make international remittances all around the world, directly from the app. They don't have to make the queue at the shop with RIA or other institutions. So this kind of services is really useful for our clients. So we are ready to launch and to develop this kind of service with open banking. We are very strict with the project, with the services we will select to make open banking with partners. Yeah.
Very interesting to get yet another example of how open banking is more a mentality change rather than a technological one. Kyle, I know that you're a very down-to-earth person, so I can imagine the term beyond banking may get you quite nervous. Not sure. That's what the question is all about. It's a term today used in no matter which context when we talk about banking. And in Belgium, there are a few banks that effectively go beyond. And on a global level, we see similar examples, but a lot more discussions by consultants, etc. I wonder, do you think it's a hype or reality today?
Well, very good question. And I'm not really getting nervous. I think we should really embrace these innovations. And I'm personally very curious to see how these initiatives will evolve in the future. And indeed, some banks will be pioneers in that. Other banks will be followers or say, well, this is not in our business or proposition. We will not do it. So I think this evolution obliges the banks to scrutinize their strategy and to see if their strategy is still fit to these evolutions. And I think that is a very important question, and the answers will be very different. So it's not up to us as federation to say, well, this or that way you should take. We are not interfering in that, but we will for sure support all innovations that are in the market for our members.
All right, thank you. Jean-Philippe, what's your take on this? Because, of course, I just touched on the consultants that may abuse the word here and there. What do you think about the term beyond banking? How important is it going to be for the sector?
I like it. I like it because for me it's a must. It's a must to go beyond. To indeed stretch the strategies and indeed go further in the development of new business model, once again. But we can certainly go further. Today we see it, don't understand me wrong, but there is a lot of gadget and goodies in the offering today, banking services, plus different kind of other services which are not directly linked, which is good because it pushes the banks to think about new kind of value proposition on that part. But I really believe indeed in the new combination with financial and non-financial aspects in the beyond banking. So for me, the next gear or the next step in the beyond is indeed the finance of things. I would like really that my banks propose me or link financial services with non-financial services indeed to become my financial butler. I see the beyond banking more on that side. And of course, there are interesting other initiatives existing on the market. And I really believe in beyond banking equal to financial mentoring as well. once again, beyond banking could help to set dialogue with the banks and help clients to be better in their creditworthiness, by the way. And if they are better in their creditworthiness or in spending their money every month, yeah, we can develop better link and understanding of what my client needs. So I see
financial inclusion, which is another
financial
very
inclusion, and I think, and the point I want to make here is to also, beyond banking can be also an enabler to get bigger purpose for the banks. Yeah, if the energy providers know that the banks stimulate their clients to analyze the different offering, it could generate more healthy competition on that part. It could elevate the financial awareness, financial mentoring. I think the banks have also the role to go further on that part. So beyond banking is not a gadget for me and is a must, but is a must if we can make the stretch and make the banks involving on that part. And last but not least, yeah, bigger purpose, better know the clients, but offer new revenue model also for the financial institution, especially.
Can I react on
Absolutely.
that? Because I find it interesting that you talk about the purpose. For me, purpose, value proposition is driving. But I don't think beyond banking is going to change your purpose. I think you have to have a clearly defined purpose of what you mean to your clients and why you are there. And then it can fit in that. And,
yeah, sure.
and for me, the lakmoetsproef, maar hoe zeg je dat in het Engels?
The real test.
The proof of the pudding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it
proof of the
eating?
pudding.
the eating of the pudding is whether in your beyond banking, whether you're credible to your customers.
Yeah.
If we would be credible in selling pizzas, we could do it, but I don't think we are that. I think for Argenta, it will always be linked to banking and insurance in some sense. But for others, like KBC is doing the football videos, I'm not sure that it's, I just don't know whether it's a success.
Goodies, yeah.
But if it's credible to the customers, why not?
Personally, I love it.
And if
Yeah.
I may just add the point, indeed, beyond is not equal to purpose, but could enable also to work on a more clear and a stronger purpose. Strengthen, indeed.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to close the formal part of this panel. And what I really like is the element of credibility, purpose as well. And isn't it surprising that it's just in 2021 that we start talking about this credibility while they lost it back in 2008, 2009. The years after that, we were always speaking about fintech technology and improving the customer experience of banks, but not so much about credibility. So I really like that the discussion on the future of banking turned into more societal and humanizing kind of discussion. And that brings me to a first question from the audience, and that's one for Fibelfin. Someone in the audience asked, will fintechs also be allowed into the Federation of Banking, and are fintechs equally critical under scrutiny by the regulator as incumbent banks?
Well, a very, very good question. I think I'm a strong believer, as I said, of innovation, and I personally believe that we should, and that is our experience in the past, because a few years ago, or already, let's say about 10 years ago, fintechs were seen as, let's say, a threat to banks. And I think reality has shown that they are not a threat, but they are a partner of banks, and that we see that banks and fintechs are working very well together. And that's why we have very good cooperation with Fintech Belgium, which is the association of fintechs. We are also organizing a big event in a few weeks from now. So personally, up in this moment, I see it as an
Belgium. Pay Belgium as another federation?
Exactly. We have also with Pay Belgium a good, we are on speaking terms, we exchange information, and there we see the evolution. For the moment, we are, let's say, as Fibelfin, we represent the financial sector, the banking industry mainly, and then, of course, also the asset manager, the leasing companies. But who knows that in the future how it will evolve. I definitely see that there will be more cooperation than today between banks and fintechs, but also between banks, different banks, and also between banks and other corporates, like, for example, the lane or other, let's say, public services. And that, I think time will tell in which direction it is, but we are for sure very open to discuss together and to exchange information and experiences, and who knows that it comes to a closer cooperation.
Yeah, we're all looking at the same mission very often to improve the lives and financial lives of customers, but very often with different interests that we look at this. So in a way, I can understand that perhaps dialogue is sufficient. On the other hand, I also understand some fintechs arguing to become a member as well. But right now, we'll stick to the open dialogue then.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is for Kim. Considering your innovative approach, how were you able to cope with the regulatory burden and compliance aspects while we see other traditional players still sometimes struggling a lot to be compliant?
Actually, to be clear, we are a bank with a banking license. We are regulated in just the same way as colleagues around the table, right? But we put technology at work. So to give you an example, in onboarding of our customers to the bank, there are maybe 24 different areas where we digitized it and we use technology in order to reach the same purposes, in order to KYC a customer, to check the identity, to read the passports, to do a check with the Crossroad Bank in case of our business customers. All that is realized using technology, using also other partners that we work with and so on, to have this seamless journey. Mm-hmm. So next to that, we also report to regulator, we do financial crime, fraud monitoring and so on, but thanks to the fact that we put this technology at work, we can do this and we can realize it with far less people and in a far speedy way, while traditional players have or tend to have the legacy and the systems there, typically human-driven, and yeah, you cannot ignore that with let's say a team of a handful of people, it works quicker and in a speedy way than with a team of 100 people working in a large department for dispute management in case of payments or something like that. So it's not that we are not exposed to the same regulatory things, it's just that we, from the start, work human and techno in combo so that, yeah, we don't have to spend that much time and people just on the task. So actually combo of both allows us to do the same in less time.
Thank you. One question for Jean-Philippe. Sustainability, we touched upon it a little bit. I think not enough if we talk about the future of banking. On a daily basis, you start seeing that it grows in terms of priority. And that was also clear in the audience. They ask, should banks focus more on environmental, social, or governance criteria?
Well, yes, of course. It's a no-brainer. Banks should invest clearly more, and this is what happens. We see a lot of evolution, and Carol told about that, and every panelist can certainly argue and confirm that. So for me, it's a must to the extent that the culture is indeed synchronized with what we are doing there. So culture eats strategy at the breakfast after the pudding, Inge. So yeah, we need coherency there. We need coherency, and we see a lot of CSR, ESG washing, greenwashing, not in the bank sector, but it happens on the market. So we have to be prudent there. And for me, CSR is also very broad. If we talk about diversity, for instance, it's not only gender, it's not only seniority, it's not only sexual preference, it's also diversity in the people we consider to onboard within the financial institution. So I think indeed the banking sector needs more diversity, and we are working on that, which is a big part of new evolution and new business model in the future. So CSR is indeed a must. Pay attention to the match with the culture, because it can be dangerous if you say we do that and you realized, or clients realize that it's not really the current, because the CEO drive a big Hummer or something like that. Yeah, it can create impact on the reputation, and you know reputation risk is also important for banks.
I'm gonna go with the same question to Karel. We invited you for a virtual roundtable earlier this year as well. And we're talking about purposeful banking. And part of that was also about the element of diversity, and then why it's so important for our industry and why we need to put more emphasis on this. And now recently, Fabelfin took a couple of more initiatives to put forward the importance of diversity. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, indeed, as Fabelfin, we want to have chosen to become also a front runner in that, because we think, as Jean-Philippe said, it's really important. And of course, there has been a lot of regulation already put in place. If you see now, for example, diversity in boards, there is a lot has changed during the past years, and that is a good tendency. But now we have started last week a big inclusion campaign out of Fabelfin with support of many also other sectors who said, well, this we want to also to participate. So this is an initiative we want to further elaborate on and invite everyone who is willing. There is also one part of it, which is the diversity in panels, for example. That is something also we have now also developed a specific website on that we want to motivate people in all sectors to have diverse panels. And that is something also where we also from politics, we get a lot of support.
And from the banking scene.
And the banking scene, of course, yeah.
All right, my next question is one on, well, freedom of choice, but I think also about inclusion, which is why I'm gonna raise the question first to Emmanuel. Does the potential elimination of coins and banknotes pose any societal issues?
Yeah, I'm sure that it could be an issue for the society, because a lot of people need to live with cash and need to use previous system. You know, for example, our last innovation in France could seem weird, but it's to accept the check, for example. So now our clients are able to make deposit with a check on their Nickel's account. So could seem weird in the current period, you know, with digitalisation, etc., with neobanks, etc. But it was a need for our clients to be able to deposit their checks on their account. So that's why we think that our model could be part of the future of banking, because we allow our customers to first to use the best of the digital solutions through a mobile app, a client portal, through self-care solution, etc., like other neobanks. But we are also providing a proximity service with the press shop, where they can make all their operations to make deposits, to withdraw money, to continue to use coins. And nickel was a coin, actually. So it's really important to continue to provide this kind of services to the client, because if not, there will be a lot of people who will continue to be excluded from the banking system. So it's really important to be sure that we will meet their needs, and we will work with them in terms of not only digital inclusion, but also for financial inclusion first, for me.
All right, yeah, given the suggestions they made as potential threats, I think it comes from someone active in the crypto space. Freedom of choice, privacy, sovereignty, and control over supply and use of money. Cryptocurrencies, is it something that at Argenta you're looking at already?
Not actively. We monitor all the big technological trends, blockchain, also crypto, but it becomes interesting as soon as there's a use case that is valuable for our customers. And until now, we haven't seen it. It's much more speculation, but that's then maybe my own personal view than anything else. But I'm very much interested in it because it's one of the new sponsors of Club Brugge. So that's why I follow it.
Jean-Philippe, what's your take on this?
Yeah, honestly, cryptocurrency is not my personal cup of tea. I'm interested in the underlying technology, in the exciting way. And by the way, I don't know if you know, but the origin is in Belgium. Huh? It's a crypto professor from the UCL who wrote the blockchain. Yeah,
Chinese
apparently, yes, apparently.
That's brand new.
So bitcoins and cryptocurrencies are interesting, but I don't see personally a huge evolution for the banking sector there to immediately now. But I think the banking sector should seriously take this into consideration.
Well, indeed, it is a reality for the moment, so we cannot ignore it. What is important, I think, and that is that there is enough supervision in that there is enough consumer protection. So, and that is, I think, very important, that there is also more and more, and I think FSMA are really working on that, but that there are regulations on that and supervision, so in order to protect the consumers, because someday there will be an accident for sure, and then people will say what has been done. So I think it's very important to take that into attention.
So on the one hand, monitoring, on the other hand, taking care of the customer, but right now not too actively getting involved. And there are a few examples. KBC is going to try with their own coin, but of course that's still POC, so that still remains to be seen how popular and active that will be. A question for Kim. And I don't think you're the right person to ask because you're a bit biased, but do the neobanks...
Now I'm curious for the question.
Do the banks distinguish themselves sufficiently? And how many neobanks will be successfully scaled in EU within 10 years? Tens? Hundreds?
I'm very interested.
Thousands?
First of all, we don't have the tendency to look forward in 10 years, neither me personally. We try to live in the now and try to do our mission and serve our people. Also, I personally don't believe in like forecasting and definitely not like more than 5 years. I mean, the world is so dynamic, you really have to orient yourself. That there are probably pitfalls and roadblocks along the way, which make you needing to turn and also your strategy and your proposition. So I will not make statements how many of them will survive. I think what is key and important, not only for neobank, because we are in the family of neobanks, but also having elements of a traditional bank. So we are a bit the combination, the best of both worlds. How many of them, what is crucial to survive is really, as Inge said, continue listening to your customers. Continue to listen what is important for them. Why do they choose you? And then pivot to that, make a laser focus on that and stick to it. And if today it's saving, but tomorrow it might be cryptocurrency, then to evolve together with them. I think that's the key to survive. As I said, 18 months ago, the embedded banking trend was not what it is now. So in order to have an organization that is able to pivot right there where the demand is key, and the neobanks, to link back to the question, that are able to do so and continue to do so, those will survive. Whether it's with all consolidation and so on, hands full or not, that I live in the middle, that the future will tell.
Emmanuel, you would like to add something?
Yeah, please. So, of course, it's difficult to say how many neobanks will survive or will exist within the next 5 to 10 years. But just to give an example with Nickel, of course, And to make a link with the previous question, Nickel now is the only neobank inside the European market to be profitable since 2018 as a payment institution. So since 2017, we are a subsidiary of BNP Paribas Group. And thanks to this collaboration and partnership with BNP Paribas Group, we were able to become, to get expertise, to be more experienced in terms of compliance, in terms of legal question, in terms of risk, data protection, etc. And thanks to this, thanks to our main shareholder, we were able to be focused on our business development. And now we are spreading Nickel all around Europe, thanks to our own fund, without any increase in capital, etc. So I think neobanks, if they want to be successful and if they want to survive, I think we have to create cooperation with big banks, because they can bring us a lot of expertise that we don't have all the time. So I think.
Well, aside from the partnership element, there's something new that you brought here on the table we haven't discussed yet, and that's I think a threat today in the industry of all these big mastodon neobanks that are growing in number of cards distributed, number of accounts opened, and billions of euros in losses. Is that a potential? Inge, would you consider that the biggest risk for these new players today?
But I think I would combine what Kim has said with what Emmanuel had said. It's very fine to follow your customers, and the Revoluts are clearly to that extent, and I'm not going to talk about Aion, but the neobanks are very successful in that. But you have to have a profitable business model, because otherwise it won't last. And a lot of those people, and not you around the table, but a lot of those people talk only about daily banking. Daily banking is basically unprofitable. So you have to add either lending or investments or a combination or even more to be profitable. That's one thing. Another thing that I see, and maybe we're a bit biased because we're living in Belgium, is that a lot of the neobanks are typically targeting the highly educated, financially savvy, cosmopolitan citizen.
The ones that can generate a profit with daily banking services.
Yes, but that is, in Belgium, that's not 50% of the population.
Exactly.
So it goes with a very cosmopolitan sales and servicing offering. So it's very expensive also. So a reason the more to look at investments and lending, and then lending is typically different in each country. So it's not that easy. And turning a hugely unprofitable model into a profitable one is a challenge.
Yep.
All right, no, thank you very much. Karel, is there something?
Well, one thing maybe to add is that I think a lot of these neobanks will survive and will develop. I think one of the main challenges will be to also follow the same rules in terms of risk and compliance as the normal banks. And if they succeed in that, they will be successful. But that is still, that is not so easy. I think that's one of the reasons that, for example, the big techs, we did not speak about the big techs today, are until now, touch wood, but not so really interested in that in banking space, because it's too complex and it costs too much for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. I heard a discussion with a big. Of course, it's 3 to 4 years ago, but they said the same thing. Our investors, they look for different balance sheets, and a bank and the one of a big tech is completely different, and also the profit margins are completely different. So a big tech transforming in a bank would completely transform the business and transform the kind of investors they would be attracting. So I agree with you. With that, I think we can close this very exciting panel. We We're going to demystify the buzzwords, and I think we touched on most of the buzzwords related to the future of banking today. We've spoken about open banking, we've spoken about PSD2, beyond banking, embedded finance, we tackled sustainability, governance, CSR, ESG, and a lot more. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Once again, I would like to thank TriFinance and Aion Bank for setting this initiative up, and I look forward to future follow-up sessions. Thanks also to Kim, Karel, Inge, Jean-Philippe, and Emmanuel for joining us and for sharing your valuable expertise.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Great time.
Thank you.